I mean, the thing that ultimately, I think the reason I became a judge or applied to become a judge, and the reason I still am, is public service. It is the function. Judges have a critical function in our society, and that's why we're here. And I mean, for me, as a specialist in intellectual property law, my practice was mostly for 20 years was mostly dealing with multinational corporations. And one of the main reasons that I became a judge when I did was to work and help smaller companies resolve their disputes. So smaller businesses, individuals, creative individuals, things like that. And that reason was really pretty fundamental. And it still is the reason I get up in the morning, is because you're part of society and you have a function to perform, which we need.
My first experience of law was when I volunteered at a law centre in Hare Hills and Chapeltown during my A-levels. And the satisfaction I got then of seeing a single individual who was trying to articulate a legal problem without knowing the language or anything about the law, being able to help that person to set it out so that the lawyers could then tackle it, was very, very satisfying. Now, in this job, there are those moments when you're sitting in court, somebody comes in, they've got a problem and they don't know quite whether it's a legal problem or how it's going to be managed. And as a judge, you have the authority and the responsibility to do something about it if the law can. And that's extremely satisfying. It's as satisfying to do that for one person who comes in perhaps with a relatively minor issue, as it is to deal with the large cases, which we often have to do, which may be of major public significance, which may be reported in the media. The opportunity to give back to the community, to say that the law is here for every individual citizen, is a mark of our civilization, and to be part of that is a tremendous privilege.
I'd always seen the judiciary as hallmarked by excellence in public service, and being part of it and seeing it up close, that view has been reinforced many times over. As a family judge, I wanted to have the opportunity not just to argue cases, but to have a hand in shaping and formulating the law and to reach decisions for families which would help them to live their lives in a better way.
I've spoken already about the personal satisfaction to be derived from writing judgments in your room, but there's a wider aspect. In a small way, it is a great privilege to be in a position where you are making decisions that may be of enormous personal or practical importance to individuals, but also decisions that can sometimes affect wider policies, the way large organisations, including the government, have to work, deciding on whether or not they have complied with their legal obligations. It's a very privileged position, as I say, and it's very humbling sometimes to be in a position where you are making decisions that are of such importance.
It's an immensely rewarding job, very often involving decisions that will have lifelong consequences for the individuals involved.
Being a High Court judge is a huge honour because of the trust which the public place in us to exercise enormous power on their behalf. The best example I can give of that is when we sentence in a murder case. Now that I've stopped being a High Court judge, I know that I will miss my time sitting with a jury. It has been enormously satisfying.
The job is intellectually demanding, but that brings with it a real sense of job satisfaction. Your task is to decide issues that are always important to the individual parties involved, but sometimes have wider significance. And those sort of cases bring an added degree of satisfaction.